Erev Tov, everyone. It is Tuesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset. Therefore, it must be the Rabbis Discuss. Whatever it is the rabbis decide that they want to discuss. And this week we are going to look at the San Remo Conference, Peace Conference. Take a step back and look at the Balfour Declaration. We're going to look at a couple other documents or meetings that were held prior to Balfour, and then we'll get into the rules and the laws of the San Remo Peace Conference. So let me bring in Rabbi Ancel. You are on, sir.
Good evening, everybody, and shalom.
Okay, so not a lot of people know about the San Remo Conference that basically established what became. Now, if you remember, a few weeks ago we did a presentation using the maps. And, I see Crystal has joined us, and Rabbi Wyckoff is here. Okay, so we did a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, we did a presentation on Eretz Israel throughout the ages, starting at the time when the land was divided up between the 12 tribes, all the way up to the San Remo Conference and the British Mandate, and so on and so forth. So, again, we're going to take a look at the San Remo Conference, but we're going to start out and go about a little bit further back. So, let's get over here. So, anyway, now we've all heard about the Balfour Declaration. I don't know if many people actually know what the Balfour Declaration actually. Oh, Marshall's here. Good to see you, Marshall. Mendel. And okay. So let's read what the Balfour Declaration actually says. It doesn't actually say a whole lot. So this was actually published on November 2nd, coming up, 1917.
100 years today.
That would be 2017. That's a 100 and some change.
Yep.
So a little over 100 years. So, anyway, so this was addressed from Arthur James Balfour to Lord Rothschild, or Rothschild. I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of this Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with the Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the cabinet. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and we will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object. It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours sincerely, James Arthur Balfour. Okay, so this is what started the whole thing. Or did it really start the whole thing? There is a number of things that actually happened prior to the Balfour Declaration. Remember, the Balfour Declaration actually was established in 1917.
But, World War I.
Yeah, actually, after World War I. We'll get into exactly what that is. But prior to that, there was the Hussein-Maimon correspondence. Okay, now Balfour's is a declaration. It was passed by the cabinet. Okay, so it had some force of legality behind it. So this Hussein-Maimon, correspondence. It's a series of letters that were exchanged from 1915 to 1916, so roughly about 2 years prior to the Balfour Declaration. And this was during the war. This was during World War I, between Hussein ibn Ali, Emir of Mecca, and Sir Henry McMahon, the British High Counselor in Egypt. Okay. In general terms, the correspondence effectively traded British support of an independent Arab state for Arab assistance in opposing the Ottoman Empire. It was later contradicted by the incompatible terms of the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Okay, so we have British people doing all kinds of weird things at this period of time. Granted, they were trying to survive. They were trying to survive World War I, and they were asking for support, mainly from the Arabs against the Turkish Ottoman Empire. And it's actually promised them a independent government. That's all it actually says. Okay? It just basically, this correspondence says that Britain will get behind them and kind of champion them to become a legitimate independent nation. Of course, there's a map that kind of lays that all out, and if you look at the map from that period of time, which I didn't have time to put up, you'll find that the area which they would call Palestine is not mandated to anybody. It was basically supposed to be an international zone. Okay, so again, this Hussein ibn Ali, supposedly a member of the Hashemites, which was the line of descendancy of supposedly of the Prophet Muhammad through his eldest son. And so they have some kind of a claim to the area. Now, remember, the area reaches from all the way up into part of Turkey, all the way down to the Red Sea and into most of what was Egypt at that point in time. Okay, so that's the Hussein McMahon correspondence. Again, no legitimacy, no force of law or anything behind this. It's just a series of conversations between the two that basically he's making a commitment that they would support Arab call for autonomy in the region, which is fair enough. I want to see what Rabbi Craig has to say. More important was the San Remo conference. So we're going to get to the San Remo conference. Okay, so here this is 1950, 1916. Remember, the Balfour Declaration doesn't come out until 1917. Okay, and then we go into let's see. We go to the Pink Hut. Let me find it here. The Sykes-Picot Agreement, which is another interesting one. The Sykes-Picot Agreement. Now, this happened in May of 1916. This even preceded the Hussein McMahon documents, or actually post those correspondence. Again, no force of law behind this. Okay, so in 1916, there's a secret convention made. This is actually during World War I again, between Great Britain, France, and with the assistance of Imperial Russia. Okay, so remember, this is 1916. So the Tsar is still in control in Russia. Okay, so this is between Great Britain, France, and Imperial Russia for the dismemberment of the Ottoman Empire. The agreement led to the division of Turkish-held Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Palestine into various French and British administered areas. Notice what's missing out of that group. Iran. Iran did not exist. As a matter of fact, a lot of these did not exist. I mean, Syria did exist. Lebanon did exist. Iraq, I don't believe it did exist.
It did not.
Okay, and neither did Iran. But what they did was they divided up. This was a secret convention made between the primary powers to divide the Ottoman Empire up. So you had Turkey, which would be which would become an Arab state. Okay, under British protection. And then you had Armenia, which was under Russian rule. You had Persia at that point, which becomes Iran later on. Okay, so you have Persia, which again is under let's see, who is that under? That is under Russia. Then you have Syria, which is not the Syria that we think of today. It's much bigger. And then we have, which was under the French control. And then we have Iraq, which was, again, under British control. Egypt, again, is under Egyptian control. And then under this region called Palestine at this point, prior to San Remo, this area that has been called Palestine for the lack of any other term, was under British, French, and Russian protection. It was never divvied out to anybody. Okay, again, the Hussein McMahon said that correspondent said that they would give them give the Arabs autonomy and a country, but not saying what that was going to be or where it was going to be. And as far as this document goes, is that it was not going to be this area called Palestine at all under any stretch of the imagination by the Arabs, by the terrorists or whoever wants to claim it and say, well, we had this prior to the San Remo conference and so on and so forth. No, it actually was not. Okay, so getting back to the Balfour Declaration.
But San Remo solved everything, basically. It gave autonomy to Syria, to Lebanon, Mesopotamia. But Balfour didn't specify anything.
That is true. Well, Balfour did establish that Palestine, and again, that had the force of the cabinet, the British cabinet, behind it, saying that they would do what they could to establish a Jewish homeland in Palestine, as long as the Jews promised not to step on the rights of the people and religions that were already there, which they have have adhered to this day. Okay, so now comes World War I has ended. Okay, the Ottoman Empire has been defeated. The land has been redivided to a point, and then we come to the San Remo conference. So that would be 103 years ago now. Okay, so that was in 1920. So that actually, April 25th, 1920, the Supreme Council of the Allied Powers, okay, this is Great Britain, France, Italy, Japan. Now remember, during World War I, Japan was actually an ally.
Correct.
Okay, and the U.S. Acting as an observer, not actually having a vote, but acting as an observer, adopted the San Remo Resolution, a 500-word document which defined the future political landscape of the Middle East out of the defunct Ottoman Empire.
That's where Syria appears on the map.
True, and Transjordan.
Yep.
Okay, so the resolution led to the granting of 3 mandates as defined in Article 22 of the 1919 Convention of the League of Nations. Okay, so we have the San Remo Conference, which was the Allied powers of World War I, making a decision. We later have this a League of Nations actually made in somewhere after the San Remo conference. It says that Article 22 of the 1919 Convention of the League of Nations. But at 1919, they really weren't solidified as any kind of an entity at all. It wasn't until 1923 or somewhere around there that the League of Nations actually kind of got its start, and then later on they kind of bled over during the time of the UN, and kind of a transition period between the League of Nations and the UN in the 1940s. Anyway, getting back, the League of Nations and the future states of Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. Again, notice who's not there. Iran. Okay, and Syria and Lebanon are actually contracted. It's a contraction. It's called Syria-Lebanon at this point. Okay, and these mandates, for the two of these mandates, let's see, told Turkey was Ottoman Empire to renounce all rights over Arab Asia and North Africa. Okay. So the Supreme Council, but the third mandate, the Supreme Council recognized the historical connection of the Jewish people to Palestine and the grounds for reconstructing the national home in the country while safeguarding the civil and religious rights of the non-Jewish population. Prior to this, they actually tried to placate the Jews by saying, well, we'll give you a homeland, and I think they were going to give them a homeland in Ghana, of all places. Anyway, and we've seen how well that worked out for other people. Anyway, but the Jews flatly refused. They said that there's no place but Israel would be a country for the Jews. So anyway, subsequent to the British limited the Jewish homeland in Palestine, that was a big. The Arabs were actually just up in arms about Jewish immigration into the area. Hence why we have the Hebron massacre in 1920 and other massacres around the Middle East and in what would become Israel or Palestine at that point. But limited the Jewish homeland to in Palestine to the area west of the Jordan River. Okay, so at this point they're saying west of the Jordan River. We actually know that not to be true. I'm getting this information from the Israel Forever Foundation. However, we already learned that the original mandate was to include what is now Jordan, or at that point was called Transjordan. The Transjordan portion of this didn't come along until 1923. So 1920, that whole region was intended to be a Jewish homeland. From Transjordan and Palestine were all supposed to be Palestine. Until the Hashemites started making a fuss about it, and the League of Nations actually divided that, taking 77% of what was actually promised to the Jews, actually had been set up by the San Remo Conference as belonging to the Jews, and then was cut by 77% by the League of Nations. Now, that's important. And why is that important? That's important because there is a concept in international law that says once a legitimate law-making body, this is San Remo Conference, makes a decision about a country or people or whatever like that, that it cannot be mitigated. It cannot be changed by any subsequent law body. Now, along comes the League of Nations, who takes 77% of that and gives it to the Arabs, actually the Hashemites, and makes it Transjordan. which was illegal. Okay, and then coming along into 1948, the UN again divides what was given to the Jews and for a two-state solution, which again was a violation of international law because San Remo had already established that land. Excuse me. It is very dry in here. So, anyway. I know it's dry in here because my dehumidifier has not run at all in the last couple of days, so I apologize for the coughing.
Come here, I'll give you my humidity.
Yeah, it's quite all right. You can keep your humidity. Okay, so again, we have two supposedly legitimate lawmaking bodies who violated the original one, the San Remo Peace Conference, and illegally divided what had been set up in San Remo and agreed to, taking more and more land away from the Jews. Okay, so subsequently, the British limited the Jewish homeland in Palestine to the area west of the Jordan River, and allowed eastern Palestine to be gradually administered by the Hashemites. And again, the Hashemites are supposedly the direct descendants of Muhammad through his son, Hassan.
The Hashemites actually is Jordan.
Well, yeah. The
Hashemite Empire is Jordan.
Right, yeah. So the territorial expansion to the east eventually gave birth to the Kingdom of Transjordan, later renamed Jordan in 1950. Okay, so what was the importance of the San Remo Conference with regard to Palestine? Okay, so the main importance here is that for the first time in history, Palestine became a legal and political entity. For the first time. Okay? Never before. The Jewish people were recognized as the national beneficiary and trust guaranteed to Britain in Palestine for the duration of the mandate. What they called sacred trust of civilization, as per the League Convention. Okay, the Balfour Declaration of 1917, which was viewed with favor, and the establishment of the Jewish national home in Palestine was now to be put into effect, and thus became a binding act of international law. Okay, again, this is San Remo. This is prior to the League of Nations. It's prior to the UN, which means that's established. The de jure sovereignty of Palestine was vested in the Jewish people, though it was kept in abeyance until the mandate expired, the British mandate over the area, expired in 1948. The terms of the San Remo Resolution were included in the Treaty of Sevres, and remained unchanged in final ratified Treaty of Lausanne in 1923. And again, violation of international law. Anything that happens after that. The Arabs received equivalent national rights in all remaining parts of the Middle East. Over 96% of the total area formerly governed by the Ottoman Turks is now under the national rights of the Arabs. Okay, but still they have to. Ancel is calling. Where did you go?
I'm here.
Where did you go?
This just disappeared.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so the Arabs received equivalent natural rights in all the remaining parts of the Middle East. Over 96% of the total area formerly governed by the Ottoman Turks, which was substantial. I mean, going all the way from Turkey, all the way through the Middle East, all the way to Morocco.
Yep.
Okay, so it was, I mean, the Arabs got all of that land. You know, as their national, they could split it up however they wanted to. They could do whatever they wanted to, but they would be autonomous in those regions. But for some reason, they still decide they have to have that little spit of land called Palestine or Eretz Israel. The San Remo
That's been
Conference.
going on for a long time.
Pardon?
Even before the Balfour.
Oh, yeah. The San Remo Conference was hailed as a major historical milestone. Celebrations were held throughout the world, with tens of thousands of people marching in London, New York, and Toronto. But the Arabs of Palestine are led by the Mufti of Jerusalem.
Yeah, the lover of Hitler.
Yeah, the guy who spent the war in Berlin with Hitler, who's Muslims, what was in Czechoslovakia?
Yes.
Where they had Muslim Einsatzgruppen, shock troops. Okay, so the Muslims were not on the side of the Allies during World War II. But anyway, under the Mufti of Jerusalem, wow, how he just declared himself that. That's all it was. What was his name? Do you remember?
No.
Husseini?
Something. I'll get it in a minute.
Okay, so we're strongly opposed to any form of national Jewish homeland. Imagine that. The first anti-Jewish riots erupted in Jaffa, just before San Remo Convention convened, a harbinger of the violent Arab rejectionist stance that continues to threaten the existence of Israel to this day, and which included the Hebron massacre. Okay, so while the Middle East peace process has been going on for over 2 decades, it is astonishing that the San Remo and the ensuing mandate for Palestine have hardly been mentioned. So you have to wonder, is it deliberate? Is it a mere omission? How could there be peace and reconciliation without acknowledging fundamental historical and legal facts? Okay, and as I said before, and I've said this many times, oh, there it is. Rabbi Craig says, Haji Amin al-Husani, yeah, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. Okay, so, and again, as I said, everything that the League of Nations did after the signing in 1920 of the San Remo Conference was illegal. The the dividing of Palestine into Transjordan and Israel was illegal. The dividing of Palestine into Arab and Jewish areas was illegal. Okay, so, I mean, we should not be surprised by what the United Nations does anymore. I mean, you know, the UN schools in Gaza are run by Hamas, and the UN doesn't seem to have any issue with that. So, Middle East diplomacy has often relied on constructive ambiguity. Boy, isn't that a term? Constructive ambiguity. That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so the concept earlier introduced by Henry Kissinger to keep the dialogue open and avoid discussing core issues deemed problematic. In an ongoing peace process, the ambiguity of language did not produce constructive results. No kidding. On the contrary, layer upon layer of distortions and gross falsehoods piled up over the initial ambiguity of land for peace. And the land for peace, it's actually only worked out in one instance for Israel. It was, and again, okay, the rules of San Remo, okay, which established some of the rules for war and stuff like that. That says, actually says that a belligerent who loses land who attacks another country and loses land in those battles has forfeited those lands until they make peace with the other country and they negotiate some kind of a return of part or all of that land. That's exactly what Egypt did under Sadat, who was murdered by the Muslim Brotherhood, which we talked about not last week but the week before. Sadat negotiated with Israel, came to peace terms, and Israel returned the Sinai to them. That took, Israel took a huge piece of the Sinai away from Egypt, and they only got it back when they actually. And so far, that has pretty well held up. We shall see. Rabbi Wyckoff, yeah, very good. He says, yeah, except Egypt did not want Gaza back. Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants Gaza. Nobody wants Gaza. If you go and you look into the ancient history of that region, you'll find that the only people that actually wanted it was the Philistines, Philistia. Nobody else in the Middle East wanted that land because they knew it was a cursed land. That land was cursed. Nobody wanted it, and Greece actually wanted they wanted a port into the Middle East to be able to trade with the Middle East directly from Greece into the Middle East and back and forth. So they took that piece of land. That's where the Philistines actually came from. They were actually Greek. They came in, they established their ports there and stuff like that, and maintained their trade routes. Okay, so they're the only ones that ever wanted that piece of land. Nobody else wanted that piece of land. Pardon?
Even Philo called himself after the Philistines.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, it's just crazy that nobody wants that piece of land, and there's a reason for it. Now, we don't know, at least let me put it this way, I don't know how far back that goes. That it had to has to predate Israel coming in, or the 12 tribes coming into Israel, because the Philistines were already there. Had been there for some time. So we don't know how far back that actually goes and where this concept that the land was cursed actually came from. If anybody actually knows what that is, I would be fascinated to find out how that actually come about. But anyway, going back to our history of the San Remo Conference. So when this whole ambiguity and this falsehoods and the initial ambiguity of the land for peace concept, which Israel has tried over and over. I mean, that was the whole thing when we came out of Gaza in 2005.
Yes.
Yeah, 2005 when we evacuated Gaza and turned it over to them and said, look, here you go. You administer it, you have it, you do what you want in there, and all that thing has done is just been, they've done, immediately they started lobbing rockets into Israel. So that land for peace there did not work out at all. Rabbi Wyckoff says the Jews tried to take the land when David defeated Goliath, the Philistines, but were not able to. Okay. Rabbi Wyckoff, if you can, I don't know, if you can find out why that area, why Gaza is determined as a cursed land, I mean, going back to the pharaohs. Like I said, anybody that can find that out, I would be fascinated to find that out. Anyway, so when the notion of occupation, okay, we keep hearing that constantly, over and over and over. The notion of occupation took root. It soon turned into illegal occupation, and then turned into brutal oppression. And finally, apartheid. I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, that just delegitimizes real apartheid. I mean, the people in South Africa must be up in arms over them using that term for Israel because everybody has equal rights in Israel. I mean, Arabs, Jews, Druze, Christians, all have equal rights in Israel. There is no apartheid. The only apartheid is in Gaza. The only apartheid is in Jordan. It's in Syria. It's in places where it's actually illegal to sell property to Jews under mandate of death. And then all the Jews that were kicked out of all the Arab countries in 1948. Okay, yeah. Rabbi Wyckoff says when we left Gaza, we left them factories. We left them factories. We left them a thriving greenhouse business that was actually exporting flowers to Europe, and it was fabulously prosperous. Turned it over to them, and what did they do? They tore everything down to use them to make rockets, to use them to make weapons of war to use against the Jews. Just don't get it. Okay, so again, the apartheid, which is a crime against humanity in international law.
Excuse me.
Let me do it. Once corrupted language describes a distorted reality, and a distortion spreads throughout, becomes corrupt, and the resulting action is bound to fail. Okay, and as I said, this is the whole reason we're doing this is you cannot understand what is going on now, and you can't understand what needs to happen in the future if you don't know the past. You have to understand the history to be able to understand what's going on now and to be able to understand what needs to happen going forward. Unfortunately, we don't teach history in school anymore, which is a real shame. So commemorating the San Reno Conference should be more than a mere remembrance. It enjoins us to consider the legal reach of the binding decision made in 1920 and the subsequent illegal actions afterwards by the League of Nations and the UN, and to ensure that we do not entertain incompatible positions when political expediency clashes with unassailable rights enshrined in international law. namely the acquired rights of the Jewish people in their ancestral land. For crying out loud. Okay, I'm just checking the time here. So, okay, let's go ahead and take our break now. And so I'm going to turn you down here for a moment. Okay, so we are going to take our break. We'll take a quick 6 minutes, and I will get something to keep me from coughing. And we will return, and we'll find out, we'll talk more about the San Remo conference and get into a little bit of what's been going on in the last few days in Eretz Israel. So please, everyone, stay tuned.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back. So, along with Rabbi Ancel, we have Rabbi Wyckoff has joined us.
We're here.
So, Rabbi Wyckoff, you said you had found it where it was talked about Gaza being cursed.
In actual fact, it was cursed and blessed. The city of Gaza was blessed and cursed. Because something had to do something with the fishermen.
Okay. Rabbi,
Yes,
oh, there he is.
Go ahead.
That's Rabbi Ancel. It was. I don't have. For some reason, we're both talking. I don't have the actual. Can you hear me?
I can hear you,
can
but
hear
you're
you.
cutting out.
Okay, I don't have the exact in front of me. But it's in Amos.
Okay, it's in the book of Amos. Okay. We will look that up. Maybe we'll get into that next week. So let me get back over here to the San Remo. Okay, so I mean, I'm sure you know about the San Remo conference, right,
Oh,
Rabbi Craig?
You know, Rabbi,
Yes.
it's in chapter 1, verse 6. Okay, wait a minute. It says right here, it says, "Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of God." Thus saith the Lord.
Well, it's really breaking up.
Yeah, the book of Amos says, "So I will send a fire upon the wall of Gaza, and it shall devour her strongholds, saith God."
Okay. Okay, so let's get back to the San Remo here. Okay, so in reality, the San Remo Resolution and the ensuing clauses of the Mandate for Palestine are akin to a treaty entered into and executed by each and every one of the 52 member states of the League of Nations, in addition to the United States, which is bound by a separate treaty with Great Britain, ratified in 1925. So, the next time you hear about the occupation of the West Bank and its supposedly illegal settlements, an almost daily occurrence in the discourse of the Palestinian Arabs and their supporters, you should remember that the territory, as the rest of Israel, was lawfully restored to the Jewish people in 1920, and its legal title has been internationally guaranteed and never revoked ever since. Any negotiation toward achieving a lasting peace should be based on this premise. Again, this is international law. Once a body has, a legal body has determined this, it is illegal for any subsequent body to mitigate it.
Correct. But even such, we go back hundreds of years, when Islam was formed, because in the Quran, their God, Muhammad, said it. That land belongs to the Jews way long before.
Yeah.
And they still don't. They just, everybody in the world, they just close their eyes. They just don't want to see the truth. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about, occupation of the land. I mean, who actually occupied the land? The Romans, the Byzantines, the Sayyidin, the Persians, the Arabs, the Crusaders, the Mamelukes, the Ottoman Turks. They were all occupiers. The only ones that were actually indigenous to the land, because there are no more Canaanites, the only people indigenous to the land were the Jews. Period.
Yes.
So, okay. So
strange world.
Yeah, it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. I mean, and again, we keep hearing about this, but nobody, not even our government, actually even talks about the San Remo conference.
Yeah, they just turn a blind eye, that's all.
Well,
they don't care.
It's like it's willful ignorance. It's a sin of omission. They keep wanting
the one thing they don't understand, no matter what happens, in the end, even if it's the end of the world, it's the only country that will survive, will be the state of Israel. Most people don't. It's because they don't understand us. We are blamed for everything. We didn't kill Jesus. We didn't kill anybody's gods. Just want to be left alone to our God. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's a little piece of land that you can, in the morning, you can drive, in the afternoon, you're at the end of the country. It's
right, and I
36
mean,
kilometers in some areas, but on average, it's only 18 kilometers in width.
Yeah, I mean, we've actually looked at the map and seen all of the Arab lands.
They stole all the land. They just keep on cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting.
And this little tiny spit of land, this little tiny piece of land, they crabbing about saying that they have to have it.
Because Gaza wants it because it's all ready for them. It's got everything. They made that land so rich, they turn the desert into land.
And what are they going to do if they get it?
Destroy it?
No, they're going to start.
These people are nomads.
They're going to use it to make weapons, and then the next thing we would be hearing is how they're attacking Crete. And that's the next step
Islam wants to take over the world.
It's their next step into Greece, and then from and into Europe, and Next thing you know, we'll
Europe
be
is
at the
ready to fall
we'll be
as
at the
far as
gates
I'm
of Vienna
concerned.
again.
Europe is finished. Unless Germany, France, Italy, what they've said lately that they're going to clamp down, especially Germany. They're going to throw the ball out, and especially with German people, you don't play around. You know, unfortunately it's in their blood. But no, they're not going to let their land to be taken over by Israel. There's just no way.
Well, like I
But
said,
England is basically Islamic.
well, like I said, we're looking at what's potentially happening is that it could come to another Gates of Vienna moment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And listen, let me tell you, United States got to watch themselves. You take a look, Ivy League universities, these people are students of law, they're studying law. And like I said before, some of these people may end up being in the government, running the country. With that kind of attitude, you can forget it. They start demonstrating against the truth. What's there to say?
Yeah. I mean, they're
You
getting.
close your eyes and you see these people that are raping women, burning children, killing old people. If they want to call that war, something is very wrong in the country.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything that they've done has been and we're getting more and more information is trickling out as these hostages are now feeling safer. We're getting more information about how they were treated, how some of them were kept in cages.
Children were kept in
How they
cages,
were. They said that all the hostages that have been returned have had scabies, were malnutritioned, and malnourished, and had a severe lack of vitamin C.
Yeah, scurvy.
Yeah, because of the way that they were being treated. The little boys that were, or the children.
These young people are they're never going to have 100% normal life.
Oh
But
no,
they've
no, and
seen,
that's the thing that has just been. Yeah, I'm happy that they're coming back, but I am so upset about what have they been exposed to. How is that going to affect them in the long
it's going to
run? I
affect
mean,
them.
even the little ones, the 4-year-old that just came back. I mean, fortunately, very young children have a marvelous ability to compartmentalize that negative stuff and put it away, but it does come out in later life.
Yes.
If it's not
Remember
actually, if
what
it's not
I
dealt
told
with.
you? I mean, I was a young man too. Me and my partner, we came back from a run into Iraq. We came back from taking out a bridge, tired because you leave, you refuel in the air, you go in, come back, refuel in the air, and land. Tired, so you know that you were in the service. You go back, you land, you go into the war room, and there's a psychiatrist that tries to take you out of that, what they call it, the killing mode.
Right.
I was tired, and I took it out on him. I says, "What do you mean? You think I'm blind? Stupid? That I don't know that I've killed?" Yeah, but he says, excuse the word. He said, "Yeah, but you guys are the luckiest bastards in the world." And I said, "Huh?" He said,
Yeah.
"Well, you're at 15,000 feet. You drop a bomb. You don't see who you kill. That guy on the ground that has to point a gun and shoot somebody, that is the guy who's going to come back sick with PTSD. It's the same thing with these children, and even with people in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s. They're harmed for life, what they've seen, what they've gone through. 50 days, that's almost 2 months,
Well,
in the dark. The food was probably nothing.
Well,
They're scarred for life.
they were saying that they were getting rice once a day. The other thing that we're finding out is that these little kids were made to sit down and watch videos of these Hamas terrorists going through and murdering and raping people, and if they cried, they were told to stop, and they were at gunpoint.
At gunpoint, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen to? These Hamas does not realize what they're doing. Do you think that these children are going to grow up and going to be some kind of a peace partner with these people? They are going to hate. They are going to hate every Arab they ever come in contact with.
Even the innocent ones.
Exactly.
This is the whole thing. Is they want us to stop. Why should always the Jew have mercy? Why?
Well,
This
I mean,
was-
we were talking about this earlier today that seriously, Israel needs to rethink its whole position on capital punishment.
That scares me. Saying anything bad about this, but they have now Arab citizens that live in Israel that are